Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday evening. My glasses are Thursday. As soon as I heard my say it, I knew I needed to correct it. Thursday, October 6th. It is 7:34, and welcome to the village legislative session. And we will come to order, and we will say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Ritchie,
Present.
Trustee Lopez,
Present.
Trustee White,
Present.
Trustee Casada,
Present.
Mayor Levitt.
Present.
Okay, we have our public hearing in the matter of proposed honorary street naming for Dr. George W. Hill.
What are we doing?
I think there are going to be some people who'd like to, in the audience, who'd like to speak.
So do
we
you want me
need
to
vote
have
open up?
anyone from the gallery, if you would like to raise your hand, I can bring you over to speak.
Okay, before we get there, Stuart, we're gonna have to open a public hearing, yes?
You can do a motion in a second, please, to open up the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open.
Now, Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's anyone in the gallery that would like to speak, if you can raise your hand, I can bring you over. There's some folks in here that I think would want to speak, but I do need you to raise your hand. Somebody has a Q&A. Joyce, can you tell me, can you put into the chat the person you want me to bring over that's on the phone? Because there is no one that's listed as an attendee via phone. That person that you put in there, Joyce, is not on here right now. There's Shandy and Shane Speller, but not Myrtle Hill. Okay, there is still no one that has raised their hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I do know that there were people that were interested in this, but they're not on just yet, probably because it's just 2 minutes in.
Yeah, the problem is it's a part of a public hearing and we're gonna go into the regular session. Otherwise, I could just move it around.
JD, do you see you have a question in the box there?
I did, and I've
Oh.
addressed that. Yeah.
All right, great.
Joyce, do you want to just maybe speak on behalf? Because we can only tap dance for so long. We need to move the meeting.
Can we motion it?
Okay, Joyce, I'll bring you over.
Well, but then it's a public hearing that was open and we have to.
Okay.
I'm saying we can motion to suspend it till after the announcement.
Okay.
Chance to come.
Historian Cole, if you could turn your camera on and unmute your mic, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. I was just speaking to Dr. Hill's family. I know they were going to join. Mrs. Hill Speller was going to join, and they are, I think, overjoyed is an understatement of this honoring of his legacy to this community. And they just, I think they were overcome with emotion and didn't really have words to express. And I ran into a lot of community members, many who were delivered by Dr. Hill. And I mean, in all different communities, people are just very happy that this is happening. So I will say that on behalf of the people that I have bumped into along the way.
Well, a major member of our community. I appreciate it. You also did a write-up, correct?
Correct.
And that'll be available for the public if anybody wants to see the write-up about Dr. Hill is available and will continue to be available. It'll be memorialized once we go through this process, correct?
Correct.
Great. I know I'm sounding very official, but basically for anybody that wants to see it, and of course, There is later on in the agenda, if Mrs. Hill comes on, I'm sure we will be able to hear from her. If she comes on later, Jamie will be on the lookout. And this way, we can move on.
We do have one other hand up, Mayor.
Great.
So Shandy Speller, I'm going to bring you over. If you could turn your camera on and unmute your microphone. Thank you. Okay.
Hello there. Welcome.
Hello, how is everyone? I've
Long
seen, just
time no
saw many
see.
of you. No. So I just wanted to, make a comment about Dr. Hill. Myself and my 3 siblings were all delivered by Dr. Hill, and he made quite a large impact and contribution to this community. One of the things that I really remember him for was basically testing everyone in the community for sickle cell to, basically do some type of, testing and study, and also to reduce the number of people who went further on with the disease, which many of you, I'm sure, know is it's very critical, painful, and deadly. So again, I just wanted to say that, someone like him is really, this is an honor that he really deserves. So thank you very much.
And the reason we chuckled a little bit, Ms. Speller, is because, I don't know if you're still there, but there was an equity task force presentation that started approximately at 6. And
Yeah, long time no see.
right, and Trustee Lopez was there with me, so we had to come to this meeting, so we bounced across the street from our wonderful library. But thank you for sharing that. That I actually did not know. So that was, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Is there anybody else? Amy?
No, Mayor, there is not. There isn't.
Okay, so with that, if I can get a vote to maybe close the public hearing, and the reason we would do that is not necessarily to rush anything, but I think we're pretty much excited about this ourselves, and we just like to move forward. So if I can close,
Yes, make a
motion
motion
to
second to
close.
close.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed.
Great, thank you.
We have mayors and trustees announcements.
Okay, do we have any announcements? You said you had something?
Sure, of course. Good evening. Good to see everyone. This evening, the mayor and I joined the Ossining Community Task Force, which is a coalition of local government, school district, the library, and community leaders in order to discuss some important topics. So this was specifically about our progress towards addressing the vision outlined in the unity resolutions and the community task force mission. The next step of this process is to develop a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan for the village and the town. So more information to come with respect to that. Number 2, Bethany Arts is putting together a show that's happening tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday called Apparatus of Repair. It is free, although registration is suggested so that lots of folks don't show up, so that there's room for everyone. A little bit about it: it transforms the intimate healing process of restorative justice into a public performance, danced in the air and on the vertical surfaces of buildings. It is designed for a presentation in proximity to prisons and communities disproportionately impacted by the legal system. So I encourage folks to check it out. 2 more things. One is continuing along the arts. WCT, the Westchester Collaborative Theater, is going to have a show tomorrow, October 7th at 8 p.m. $10, which is a bargain, and it's the Blind Tiger Improv Show. Drinks are available. for a small donation. Leave your worries at the door and come laugh with the fun and funny folks of the Blind Tiger Improv. Lastly, we have First Friday Community Crawl. It's the first Friday of every month. It's tomorrow. So lots of businesses and organizations participating. You can go to the Fish Fry at the Elks Lodge. You can go to Hudson Valley Book for Humanity or the library, Craven Jamaican, Ossining Wine and Liquors, Melita's Home, lots of great spaces. And then there's a gathering also happening at is it La Social or La Social? Does anyone know? Bistro Bar, happy hour, 26 South Highland Avenue across the street from the high school. So check it out. That's it.
Thank you. I cannot say that there's one weekend in this community that there isn't something lively going on. Case in point. So I'm still on target with that statement. So happy to be living here. On my right side, anything, Dana? I thought you might want to discuss your earlier adventure today. You go ahead. Oh, you should go because you're the one that had to get up at an ungodly hour.
I can barely put two words together, so. This morning, early, myself, Maddie Zahaj, and Karen Vittori drove to Middletown, New York, my first time in Middletown, for a Patterns for Progress Main Street seminar. It took place in a vintage movie theater, one of my favorite things. And we heard people from different communities talking about ways that they are revitalizing and restoring and rebuilding their main streets, which, as you know, in pretty much all over the state, all over the country, took a hammering economically and are now coming back through a lot of, including ours, through a lot of inventive ways. And the village manager, Vittori, was one of the speakers, and she showed the winning DRI video that we put together and talked about, gave advice on how people can craft a winning DRI proposal. So then we took a walking tour, then we had empanadas, and then we took a walking tour of the downtown. I have to say the DRI has really been great for the city to do things to help bring it back. So your tax money at work. So it was great. I really enjoy going to these. I always learn a lot. So things to bring back here.
Yes, I don't think either of us actually knew where Middletown was before this, but now we know where.
I've heard of it.
It's a city, right?
It is a
Yeah.
small city.
So people always ask us all sorts of questions about development, and we always do have to differentiate between cities, towns, and villages. It's a little bit.
But what I've discovered is that we're actually bigger than a good many of the cities.
Yeah.
Like way bigger in
Right.
terms of population.
Yeah.
So we're like a village that acts like a city, kind of.
Sort of. Okay. Sir?
No one else is there, but actually there's a Middletown town as well. I've been through. There's when I used to go to Newport to see Brian a long time ago. So yes, there's another Middletown.
Thank you. So thank you for the announcements. I don't have anything special except my usual wishing folks a Halloween is right around the corner. We haven't had a real big open Halloween for, I guess, 2 years. So I am hopeful that we go big, we go better, and we go safer than we ever have before, because I think there are a lot of people that will be very excited. Safety is a big deal. When I was a kid, it wasn't very safe, and people's houses were always in danger of getting bombed by all sorts of stuff. So I know we've made a lot of progress. Ossining is famous for lots of its events, so enjoy those. That's it for my announcements. My colleagues did a great job. Whatever is happening here, we will be going into budget season. You'll be hearing more about that. For those of you that focus on that, please be aware, the month of October is actually the big month. November, things are sort of due, have to get signed off and sent up to state. So it's a very busy time for the staff. It's a busy time as well for this team of people with me who look at the budgets, who ask 1,000,001 questions, and they're all meetings that are open to the public. So it's full transparency, all of the budget meetings. So I appreciate that. And I think we can now move to the next agenda item.
Excuse me, Rika, you had said that when Mrs. Speller had joined on the phone, since she was elderly, that to let you know if she wanted her to speak.
You mean Mrs. Hill?
Mrs. Hill Speller, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Did you want me to bring her over
Yeah,
or
I
do you?
think let's do that. I'm
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
We're not
She's on the
breaking
phone, so
any
it's just
rules.
going to be an allowed to talk. She doesn't have a camera going. Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Hill Speller, I'm bringing you over now.
I see a mute on.
Yes, ma'am, you would need to unmute your phone. You're unmuted. You can speak now if you'd like.
Hello,
Hi.
can you hear me? Can
We
you
can
hear
hear
me?
Yes.
This is Myrtle Hillspeller, and I am very excited about what is being proposed as an honor to Dr. Hill. Sometimes when people do nice things, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And this certainly is, because he passed away in 1974. So knowing that people still think of him, knowing that people who did not know him, like Mrs. Cole, but wanted to be very much involved in remembrances and in honoring him. I know that both his daughter and son are very excited, and that's a good thing. I say my kids, but indeed they are truly as grown as they will ever be. But they are very excited about their dad being honored. Just a little bit about Dr. Hill. I recall that when you would go into his office, there would be a lot of patients waiting to see him. And people waited in a very respectful way. They didn't get angry, because the one thing you knew, that once you got into the room to be seen by him, you were the focus. He wasn't thinking about anyone else or anything else. So you knew that your time would come and it would be truly your time. That's just one of the things when I talk with Joyce, every time a memory gets brought up that I hadn't thought of before. As most of you probably know, he was very much loved. And if there ever was a time for lack of discrimination, it would be in his office. It was almost like the United Nations. You weren't the only one of color to be there. He had all ethnic groups. He had children. He had adults. And he had mature people. so that certainly he covered a lot within the community. I just wanted to make sure that everyone who was on this call understood that you are very much appreciated and you are very much loved because you are giving love. And I thank you all for that. I think that's probably what I need to say. I am sure when I stop talking, there'll be many things that I think of. And again, I thank Mrs. Cole for her being excited and for her being the center of making sure that the naming of the street occurs. And so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phil. We very much appreciate your thoughts, your comments, and all of the thoughtfulness and wishes for us. It's fantastic that we have a historian who has really taken on the role of looking at our history and bringing it forth so that when we do these namings or any other memorialization of people who made a difference in this community, that it's shared with the public. And so I look forward to the actual street naming and the day that we get assigned to it, and we usually all show up and really enjoy those moments. It's, for me personally, one of the best thing about being mayor of a village that envelopes its community, with such thoughtfulness and gratitude for the people that have made this really important and a good place to live. I don't know if there are any other comments from the board. We're all very excited about doing this. When we all agree on something, there isn't really a whole lot to say except thank you for sharing those thoughts with us. You know, it's very special. We sometimes, need a little boost from our community members because we deal sometimes with such cut and dry items that honestly, this is probably the highlight of the moment of the meeting, you sharing the information and gratitude with us. So thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, folks.
We have our administrative reports, village manager Toy. Thank you.
You know, you're gonna have to beat the last speaker with something more moving than basic stuff here. You gotta aim high.
I really, it was very wonderful to hear
Yep.
Mrs. Hill Speller speak, and wonderful that we're able to pay tribute to such a wonderful person who provided so much for the community. That's what makes this job, that's what makes living Ossining, that's what makes it what it is, which is quite wonderful at times. So it is tough to beat that. So I will just try to focus on some things we're doing now, nothing quite so momentous, but we are continuing our efforts to go green, and most recently with new electric lawn equipment that was bought locally from Ossining Lawnmower and is going to be used initially in Sparta Park, Snowden Park, William Street, Topwell, Arthur Jones Park, and Richard Wishney Park. And also, staff met recently with Master Gardener and Master Volunteer Donna Sharrett, along with our partners from the DC, to begin planting a rain garden at Richard Wishney Park, which we anticipate will be planted this coming spring. And just for those of you who may not know, a rain garden is a suppressed area in which the landscape can collect water from driveways, impervious surfaces of the street, and allow it to soak into the ground. And it's planted with all types of grasses and flowering perennials that are help to absorb the water. And it is a cost-effective and very beautiful way to reduce runoff, as well as provide opportunities for our pollinators and shelter for butterflies and songbirds and other wildlife. So we're excited about that too, as part of our green efforts. And Mayor Levin, we got that. I know that's something that you've been asking for. So we are starting planning for our rain garden. Last Wednesday.
I do appreciate it. The inside joke is that my husband says he'll divorce me if we don't do something like that. So thank you for saving my marriage.
Well,
And also, the truth is that we do work with Cornell here, and environmental jobs are really part of the future and the future jobs generation. And these kind of gardens are a natural way to collect water in flooding areas in our parks. And for me, I'm hoping that this will be a form of education. That is really the purpose of this. This is a pilot on behalf of the village to use one of its parts to get it right, to do the plannings, to pay for everything. And we do have the budgets for it. And then hopefully teach members of the community, whether they're in apartments, whether they are in condo complexes, whether it's the senior homes, and of course, houses with their own properties who have issues of water collection, to learn how to do these themselves and then create these gardens on their own properties and help with collection of water and regeneration. And they are also opportunities for pollinating paths. So all good stuff. So I thank you for that.
thank you. We do hope, we are trying to incorporate ways to promote this and educate as we do it, because it is something that people can do at home if they have an area that requires that. So all really good stuff. Last Wednesday, Assistant Village Manager Maddie Zahaj and I attended the monthly Municipal Administrators Association meeting, and representatives from Con Edison were there. And they were discussing ways that Con Edison can work with municipalities more effectively, which was very good to hear. So they spoke a lot about work that we do during emergencies with our liaisons, during big power outages, after big storms. But we also talked about infrastructure projects such as the gas line replacement projects that we're seeing all throughout the village now. And while everyone admitted that communications can be challenging, most municipalities have some level of challenges in this area working with the utility companies. It was good to see a real commitment from our Con Ed representatives in making sure that they can forge better paths of communication. And they are also they are happy to come to communities, to meet with staff, to meet with elected officials, to meet with residents. If that is something the board is interested in doing, we can pursue that with them. And it could be a town hall meeting, it could be a special meeting. There's different ways we can approach that. And not only can they talk about ways that they can work more effectively with the community on the community's behalf, but also what they can talk about programs that they have for people to manage their heating and electric costs, now that we know that we're going to see much higher costs in the coming months. So it was good. We were encouraged.
So are you asking the board if we're interested in having
I'm
reps
assuming
or
we might
somebody from Con Ed come to speak to the community in some forum?
Yes.
Is that it? Okay, so are we interested in that? And you're laughing, but I'm not sure. I'm afraid to ask. I'm gonna start with Dana.
Of course.
There we go.
I'm afraid that they come here and I'll scare them off, but I would love for them to be here, yes.
Is anybody not?
Of course. That's not even a
Did you
question.
hear that, Jamie? That cannot be. No, I think we do. I do, however, will say that the one community, maybe two, where it was most effective to meet with them was when their senior vice president was there, not just their liaison. And, we're a big community, as Dana said. We are somewhere between a city and a town and a village. I mean, we're almost 30,000 people. And we've gotten a lot of complaints on so many levels. So I don't want it to be an attack on Con Ed when they show up. But to be fair, the most effective ones are where their senior executives showed up. And I think that was in Scarsdale, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd like to see a level of seriousness to this. I don't mean to put a damper on this, but I don't want it to be a show. I want it to be effective. I want people to be heard. It would be great if there was translations, so they can bring someone. I'm sure College has people who speak Spanish. If there's literature that would be multilingual. And then it would be planned strategically so that everybody's heard, and that Con Ed is heard, and because they do have great programs. And they're not so easy to understand when you look at their materials. So it's great to have them here. So I'm very optimistic, and we can have more than one meeting. This is not a lot of work with them. So please, if you want to take this to the next step on our behalf, and contact the person again and say, yeah, we would love to have a.
So I guess just as a point of clarification, Mayor, so you are asking staff to set up more like at least minimum of 2 meetings, or one. I would love for them to come in and setting up as a work session for us to have a dialogue. And also would like to have the opportunity for them to meet with the community as well. Is that something?
I wasn't asking for that. I was saying that what I heard, I would be happy with one meeting for now with an agenda, who's going to be there, multilingual information, if they're talking about their programs, so people can understand, not just some people, but as many people as possible, and be prepared for a second follow-up. I don't know if coming in front of us in this environment is the best use of everybody's time. We don't get a lot of people watching this. It'll just be us speaking on behalf of others. Con Ed affects not just the board, it affects actually individuals. So I'd like it more in a public, for me, what I was asking. If you want something else, that's
Like a
fine.
town hall meeting type of
Something
venue.
open meeting, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was asking for, and I think Deputy Mayor was asking what I was asking for. That's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. Okay.
You, of course, I mean, if you want to have something else, sure.
No, that's fine. And I think that town hall meeting setup, I think will be helpful, but there are questions that we as a legislator will have to have a different forum or setting, because me personally, I wouldn't want to take the time that they will have to spend with the community at large. And the specific questions of what kind of partnership will we be able to bring to our community? That's why.
So why don't we start with the first, and then we can organize the follow-up.
Great. We will reach out and
That'll be
look
great.
at dates and
Thank you.
we'll loop back with you all. On a separate note, we have retained Aperio, New York, to conduct a needs assessment for the Ossining Youth Bureau, and this is now underway with support and guidance from the Youth Advisory Board Needs Assessment Committee. And Antonio Lopez of Aperio has begun meeting with key community stakeholders this week. So we're starting off aggressively because we need to get this complete by the end of the year, but we will have more community engagement, questionnaires, different ways that we're going to be reaching out to community on youth, parents and youth themselves. So we'll keep you apprised as that goes forward. We also met on Monday, we met with the Austin Fire Chiefs and Trustee Fritchie and our consultants from Mitchell Associates to kick off the firehouse consolidation study. And we're very excited to work closely with the Austin Fire Department to evaluate, and Mitchell Associates to evaluate the most efficient ways we can work to upgrade our facilities and potentially create a new facility that will provide the resources necessary to respond to fires and emergencies more effectively and more safely in today's environment, keeping in mind that many of our firehouses were built some time ago and are difficult to rehabilitate to the point that we would need to make them really compliant with the needs of today's emergency responders. So the idea is that through consolidation, we will be able to amass more resources to put into firehouses more efficiently. So thank you, Trustee Fritchie, for facilitating that and for kicking it off with us. And as Trustee White mentioned today, Maddie and myself and Trustee White spent the day in Middletown. And not only did we get to talk about the BRI and show the video, which of course everybody complimented on us on. We were also there. We were pleased to see Susan Landry from the Department of State, who was our partner while we worked through the planning process here. So it was nice to see her and spend some time with her and ask her when we were going to get the funding designation from the state and a few other questions that she didn't have the answers to, but we anticipate before the end of the year. And it was also really great to see what's happening in other communities, many like Ossining, whether it's Middletown or Beacon or just other places are doing really, really unique and innovative things on their main streets. And these are all pretty much towns with the same, once thriving main streets, then subject to urban renewal, and now revitalizing a way that is really quite significant and quite amazing in how they're doing it. And we talked about all different kinds of issues. How do you incorporate, environmental sustainability in really old structures, and how do you attract businesses and all different types of things. So we had tons of different speakers and ideas from all over communities, and a lot of these things are things that we can replicate here. So whether it's doing signature events, a lot of these things we're also doing, pop-up shops, creating more effective ways for businesses to evolve from the vendor stage to wanting to have a brick and mortar business in your downtown. So it was a lot of food for thought, and we were excited to be there. And then I also have some exciting news. We work with Civic Plus. That's our website provider. It's a government technology company. And a few months ago, they interviewed our very own Jamie Hoffman about our website and about our community engagement tools and about our success, because Ossining, thanks to Jamie, has made quite a name for itself in government technology and community outreach and social media. So that that interview is now live. It might live this week. So I'm just sharing that that video with everybody. But I want to just give a big shout out to Jamie Hoffman to putting us firmly placing us in the 21st century in terms of our technology and doing an outstanding job and getting recognized for it. Woo!
That did not take a decade. I'm just going to say that actually happened faster. Should have fed somebody on this one. You remember the conversation 7 years ago? Thank you, Jamie. No, it's a big deal. It's also with government, unlike private industry, moving things along, security, as some of us have learned. I know people complain government moves slowly, but there's a reason. Security, for example, with municipalities, even communications, like a big deal. You don't control everything. So Jamie, yay to you. And I know you're also helping so many of the other departments across the municipality, educating them. So very, very excited. Excited for you. I didn't see the interview, but I will definitely be looking at it.
Can I add that if you spend any time on other municipalities' websites trying to find information and stuff, ours is so much better. No, we have the best. I mean,
That it? Okay, Martha.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Martha. Good evening, folks. Yesterday, the state's regulations for the home growing of medical cannabis went into effect, and they go into effect statewide. This is not impacted by the village's decision to opt out of lounges or anything like that. This deals with certified patients and designated caregivers, both of whom are provided with identification by the state's Office of Cannabis Management. There are particular rules to follow, but again, this would allow an individual who is either a designated caregiver or a certified patient to grow a certain amount of cannabis at his or her home, which can include an apartment, a condominium, or anything like that, assuming in the case of an apartment or a condominium, that your landlord or homeowners association does not prohibit smoking. If they do, you cannot smoke cannabis there, but you can obviously take the gummies or other things like that. They can't prohibit you from doing that. There are limits as to how much you can grow. You can possess at any given time 5 pounds of cannabis. You can have 6, if I have it correct here, 3 mature and 3 immature plants. Those would be female plants. I have learned a great deal about this, that the female plants actually provide more of the cannabis than the male plants. If you end up with a male
Surprise.
plant, if you end up with the male plant, I'm sure people won't be surprised, you can get rid of the male plant and replace it with a female plant. A couple of other things just to note.
Not to take it.
Okay. A landlord may not refuse to lease or otherwise penalize a certified patient. As I said, they can, however, put in no smoking rules. Also, if a landlord is getting certain benefits through any federal agency which prohibits the smoking of cannabis, they can in fact restrict for that reason. It's also important to note that if you live near a church or a school, you are not prohibited from growing cannabis at your home. It's important to note, however, you cannot grow it in a common area. It has to be your home, your location. In terms of what the village can and cannot do, you can't stop people, obviously, from doing this, but you may wish to consider certain things such as how people can protect the cannabis from other people. The state says that you simply have to have it basically gated or fenced. You may want to indicate in your regulations how you want that done. Cannabis can obviously be grown in your home. So there may be issues with regard to the type of electricity and lamps and lighting and venting and things like that that you have. All of that is not directly in the state's regulations and may be something for the village to consider. Again, also to be considered for to be a designated caregiver. Now, a designated caregiver can grow cannabis for more than one certified patient. Actually, you can grow for up to, I believe, 4 or 6 certified patients, but you can only have a limited number of plants. The important thing, though, for designated caregiver, to become a designated caregiver, you must have a certified patient who designates you as a caregiver. You can't just basically be out there and growing and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to give it to X. It's not permitted by the state. And that's, as I said, that went into effect on the 5th of October. So it is now in effect now. And by the way, certified patients, and it's a designated caregiver, must be 21 years of age or older. And a certified patient, if under 21, can have a certified caregiver, a designated caregiver, do the growing for them at the certified caregiver's home, not the home of the patient. So just for folks to know that. A few other things: you can't sell or barter cannabis seeds. You must buy the seeds from a designated seller. The state has a list of designated sellers of cannabis seeds. I do not know if I go onto my plant guide if I will be able to find that, but given that I can find many different types of tomatoes and other things, who knows? So just want folks to know that that is out there, and those regulations, as I said, are in effect. The regulations with regard to recreational use, home growth, have not yet been promulgated. They're not even out in draft form yet. So we expect that by the end of the year, we will probably see those regulations in draft form, and probably they will not be in effect until, I would say, probably mid-2023 at the earliest. But because medical use has been around for a few years in the state, these regulations have now come to play, and they probably provide some sort of template as to what recreational home growth will be as well. So just want to make folks aware of that. If they have any other questions, the best thing to do would be to go to the Office of Cannabis Management, which has a 2-page pamphlet. It has a whole thing on medical cannabis home cultivation guide, which includes, basically what you got to look for on the plant to know if it's male or female, sort of like looking under the hood, so to speak. And all these other things are on the state's website. It's and it has frequently asked questions. So if anyone's interested, cannabis.ny.gov is basically where you can go, and I can answer really all your questions there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Just want to make sure that we hear that again, that Stuart is not people's attorney, that that he's informing the board and the public, which we thank him for, the questions. This is New York State. Questions go to New York State, not to village attorney. Information, et cetera, et cetera. Appreciate the information though. Okay, Martha.
Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. Just a couple of quick announcements from the police department. This past week, Detective Chavez and I traveled to Albany to present at the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services Criminal Justice Symposium, talking about our Spanish language communications program. Also participated in a roundtable discussion with the Attorney General, the county executive, and members of the county legislature about criminal justice issues in Westchester. That on behalf of the Westchester County Chiefs of Police, New York State Chiefs. Next week, Detective Chavez and I will be taking a show on the road, and we're also presenting at the IACP International Conference on our Spanish language program as well. Right now, the main focus of the police department is hiring. We have quite a few openings, so we've canvassed, and we'll be sharing with the board when interviews begin shortly. And lastly, at the end of the month, we're looking forward to the return of Trunk or Treat program brought on by the police department, and excited to keep going as an option for something for kids to do safe on Halloween. Thanks.
I think Maddie's defining herself as a kid. I see you getting all excited. Great, thank you, Chief. Did you win an award at this thing for the Facebook page, or you were just sort of educating people about it?
No awards this time. The Criminal Justice Symposium was an opportunity where police chiefs training people. It wasn't all law enforcement. It was people from all over the state coming there to learn about different projects being worked on in criminal justice. So this is a
Got it.
presentation to help educate people.
Great, thank you. Questions? All right, Martha, you're on.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to make an organizational announcement? You see anybody, Jeannie?
There's nobody in the gallery with their hands up.
Is there anybody here who would like, from the public, would like to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda tonight?
Doesn't look like any hands up.
Okay, moving along to village board resolution. Approval of minutes, September 21st, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the September 21st, 2022 regular meeting as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any comments? Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Okay. Approval of voucher detail, October 6th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated October 6th, 2022 in the amount of $379,129.41.
So moved.
second. Comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Authorizing the village manager to sign the Village of Ossining Affordable Housing Program Agreement for 2023 with IFCA Housing Network. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Counsel, the village manager is authorized to sign the Village of Ossining Affordable Housing Program Agreement 2023 with IFCA Housing Network, 138 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, pursuant to terms set out in September 12, 2022 proposal. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Call for public hearing application for a planned waterfront special permit in the PW-B Planned Waterfront-Central Waterfront Zoning District pursuant to Village Code Sections 270-23(1) and 270-54, whereas by letters dated June 22nd, 2021 and February 23rd, 2022, WPB Development LLC, WBP, by its engineering consultant, Inside Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture, PC, requested a planned waterfront special permit from the Board of Trustees for the property located at 30 Water Street, 89.19-6-27, 28, 29, 22, and 26, and the PWB Planned Waterfront Central Waterfront Zoning District. And whereas Village Code Section 270-23I Planned Waterfront Special Permit provides in part applications can be made for a special permit allowing for increased density in the planned waterfront districts based on the procedures outlined in Article 11 for parcels comprised of at least 3 acres. An applicant may apply to the planning board for one or more density bonuses in exchange for approving amenities to the Village of Ossining. And whereas Village Code Section 270-53 states, pursuant to the provisions of the Municipal Home Rule Law, the Village Board reserves the approval authority for special permits for certain use. Such use represents such diverse benefits and impacts on local land use as to preclude specific descriptions and standards for their approval. The village board, in considering any application for a special permit hereunder, shall exercise such discretion reserved for legislative matters so as to ensure that the public health, welfare, and safety are protected and the environmental and land resources of the village are most efficiently utilized. And whereas pursuant to Village Code Section 270-54A, the application for a planned waterfront special permit was referred to the Village of Ossining Planning Board for its recommendation. And whereas on September 28, 2022, the planning board issued its recommendation letter to the Board of Trustees. And whereas pursuant to Village Code Section 270-54B, the village board, upon receipt of the report by the planning board, shall within 62 days of such receipt conduct a public hearing, and within 62 days thereafter render its decision unless the applicant waives the time requirements for this section. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on October 19, 2022 at the Municipal Building, 16 Cortland Avenue, first floor boardroom, Ossining, New York, to consider the application by WBP Development LLC for planned waterfront special permit pursuant to Village Code Section 270-23I and 270-54, and be it further resolved. Members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that for those individuals who want to watch and or participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be provided via the Zoom platform noted below. And be it further resolved, the comments regarding the application for a planned waterfront special permit will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofossining.org. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? I would just like to make comment, village manager. So this is probably one of the biggest ever sort of, not the biggest ever, but in recent times, affordable housing project. I think the board is, for the most part, supportive, but it gets complicated and buried a lot of times. So if we can make sure to get the information out there to the public about the public meeting. I know we announced, I know that there's consistency in how we do it, but this is like a big project. We're gonna have a couple more. We did a phenomenal job. You guys did a phenomenal job with the 6 open sessions with different categories to start the project off in the first place. I'd like to sort of keep that momentum if possible to get the word out there in a bigger way than just this formula.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Appointment of Frank Budding to the Environmental Advisory Council. As on the Board of Trustees appoints Frank Budding to the Village of Ossining Environmental Advisory Council for term expiring December 31st, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Comments?
Frank is an expert on trees. He's an amazing resource and knows a lot, and I think we're lucky to have him on the list.
That's great. Thank you, Martha.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Appointment to Board of Ethics. Result of the Board of Trustees appoints Shirla Tukura to the Village of Ossining Board of Ethics for term expiring on December 31st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? I'm going to make a comment. I know you guys got this a little bit late. I think I sent this out, it's possible today, this morning. But some of you know, Shirla, and we're lucky to have her as well. The Board of Ethics does not have a liaison. The mayor is sort of an ex officio liaison to all the boards, but somebody has to do this. So Shirley sent us resume. She is highly qualified. She's a non-lawyer, which is one of our requirements and always difficult to get. She has a stellar resume, has been a member of this community for many, many years. And I don't know if there are any questions, but I put her name in, and I think we're lucky to have her. Questions?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution denying the July 13, 2022 application by El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated doing business as El Manavita Sports Bar and Restaurant, 107 Main Street, Ossining, New York for 8 cabaret license. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Ossining Code, by application dated July 13, 2022, the authorized representative of the business El Manavita Sports Bar and Restaurant, Ossining, New York, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for cabaret license for DJ music. And whereas on January 19, 2022, the Board of Trustees denied a previous application by El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated doing business as El Manavita Sports Bar and Restaurant for a cabaret license for 2022. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the July 13, 2022 application to the chief of police for a full investigation to the truth of the statements contained therein, and to any and all matters which might tend to aid in determining whether or not such applications should be granted. And whereas the village clerk also referred the July 13, 2022 application to the village building inspector to inspect the premises for the proposed cabaret and to advise if any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code were observed. And whereas pursuant to section 100-5 of the code, the public department submitted to the village clerk on August 12, 2022, information regarding the 37 calls for service to the location, including 10 noise complaints, 8 altercations and disturbances, and a recent appearance ticket for operating a cabaret without a permit. And whereas an inspection on the premises was performed by the building department personnel on August 2, 2022, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the board of trustees, which board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the board of trustees of the September 14th and September 28, 2022 work sessions discussed and reviewed the application hearing from Lieutenant Brennan Donahue, Corporation Counsel Fernando Vasquez, the owner of the applicant, and the applicant's attorney Jose Cotto. Now therefore be it resolved that the July 13, 2022 application by El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated and doing business as El Manavita Sports Bar and Restaurant, 107 Main Street, Austin, New York, for a cabaret license for 2022 is denied. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Code Section 171-13, the village clerk shall refund all fees applied in advance for the cabaret license application. And be it further resolved that the authorized representative from El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated, DBA El Manavita Sports Restaurant, Bar and Restaurant, will contact the Ossining Police Department to review ways to reduce the number and types of reported incidents at the location. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution authorizing settlement for Jorge Tenecota Quito versus Village of Ossining et al. Whereas Jorge Tenecota Quito commenced a lawsuit in the United States District County, Southern District of New York, caption Jorge I. Tenecota Quito v. the Village of Ossining et al. Under civil action number 2020 CIV 10588 for damage arising from an alleged illegal strip search occurring on December 17, 2017, and whereas the parties to the action through counsel with the invaluable assistance of mediator Christopher Carbone SQF were able to resolve the litigation for $45,000 subject to the approval of the Board of Trustees. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining authorizes settlement of the litigation commenced by Jorge I. Tenecota Quito for $45,000, and be it further resolved that upon review by the Corporation Counsel, the village manager is authorized to sign documents necessary to effectuate the aforementioned settlement, and be it further resolved that the treasurer of the Village of Ossining is hereby authorized and directed to pay to Jorge I. Tenecota Quito and Timoco and Moses LLP $45,000 in the settlement of the aforementioned litigation upon a delivery to the Village of Ossining of a release to the village and the other named defendants for settlement of the litigation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Finance, adjustment of 2022 street sidewalks and signalized intersection improvements, capital project for debt financing sources, DSNY funding, and CHIPS state aid. Whereas village management wishes to establish a capital project in accordance with the 2022 capital plan for street and sidewalk resurfacing and improvements, not to exceed $1,090,000 designated to be financed by insurance of $850,000 serial bonds, $850,000 New York State DA&SA grant, and $240,000 CHIPS state aid funding, and now therefore be resolved. Capital projects and capital project budgets are established as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Paul, did you have some commentary on this? Oh, Paul is frozen.
Looks frozen.
He's frozen. Man, he was doing really great until I said, Paul.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
I can hear you guys.
So,
Can you hear me?
well, we didn't say anything bad, so we'll have a
You're
good
alive.
report.
can hear
You're good. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Simply put, this is a moving around of the money within the funds that you guys have funded every year for the street and sidewalk maintenance. And it also utilizes the debt service that we're undertaking with the $850,000 bond. And it also reallocates the $850,000 that we're going to receive from one of the two grants outside of the DRI that were secured by the manager's office last year. The first being that 200 Main Street, which paid for remediation, and the second one being the 850,000, which was originally written up to go to the intersection improvements. So once all these movements are passed tonight, Dale will do the same in her books. And then the fallout from that will be an executed contract to ELQ Industries, which we referenced last week, which is on the following resolution. And which I could talk about a little further there if you'd like, but that's what we talked about in the work session last week. And then also from this line, we're going to cut POs to perform some of the work that we reviewed with the manager's office once we had these funds committable. So and then pave a portion older pavement westerly from the Snowden Bridge to the miscellaneous work around the village with curb, sidewalk, ADA accessibility from the same fund after this money is moved around in 3D intersections that we've kind of discussed previously. But as we get closer to doing that, if we're able to fit them in at the end of this year, I'm sure I'll get the details to you all through a presentation from the manager or myself at a work session.
Right, so just to put it concisely, and also because we lost you, the numbers have moved from one fund to another. There were a couple of grants involved. I think one of them is from Sandy Gillett at about 850. The bonds are to secure. Basically, it's the 5-way intersection that we will start. And yes, there is the next piece that we need to approve to get the village manager to be able to go to contract. And the remaining monies, because it's up to 1,090,000. The remaining money will go to 2 or 3 intersection. You named Snowden. You named by Westerly, and I didn't hear the third one, but regardless, it's 3 downtown intersection with ADA improvements and paving improvements with monies that are left over. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Thank
So,
you.
You know, I think that the big.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
Clarify a little bit, but sorry, I'm getting a note here that says my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, we can't really hear you.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up, so we can't really hear you well.
So,
I defer.
so Paul, you can text me if you have anything else you want to add, but I'm gonna, so the big takeaway here is that because the funds were committed for the 5 corners, and now it looks like we'll be able to secure those funds through the SAM grant through Sandy Gillett's office, that now that frees up more money to do, you know, have greater impact. And that's significant because this is money that's, you know, we can obtain now, you know, cost control, being able to do as much work as we can now, as opposed to waiting till later, is going to really have a much greater impact. So we basically doubled our ability to pave. And one of the key projects that we're looking at is Westerly Road from Snowden Avenue down to Westerly, so down to probably around right by the train station to the parking lot. We're also looking at multimodal money for some intersections, and we're working on that also came through grant funding that's on Croton Avenue. So from where Ossining Liquors is, where the Dale Avenue
Or 134.
134 and 133 sort of split off and then down, and we're looking at other work and also near Camp Woods. So we're going to try to get as much of that work done before it gets cold, and thankfully we have the ability to do that. So Paul, if I missed anything, feel free to wait. You can text
He
me.
wants to
Okay.
make sure you're identifying where the Westerly Road money is coming.
So
Sorry.
the Westerly Road money is CHIPS money, correct?
DOT.
DOT, okay, I'm sorry about that. So.
We got an additional, we got on top of the chips, we got another 150,000
That's
from the
great,
grant
that's
that we
great.
reallocated.
Right, so all of this grant money means more paving in Ossining on roads that people complain about a lot. So
Well, in
it's
the
all
roads
good.
that we have power over and right of way over, because not all, some roads are state and some are county. So we're doing the most we can with so much of the money we're getting on the roads where they apply. Which is.
We are making some headway with Route 134, happy to say.
Yeah,
With Dale
well,
Avenue, we're making some headway with Con Ed and State DOT.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I'm happy to hear it's before the winter.
Yeah,
So,
that is important too, because in conversations with the state and Con Ed, it does look like Con Ed's gonna do the paving restoration, and the state is, has been helpful in driving that as well, and that's helpful with us with the state too, because that offsets things they have to do, which helps us to get them to do other things that the state needs to do, so it's
all works together.
a nice little, when things line up, they line up well. So I want to thank Paul for orchestrating those conversations and being diligent about making sure we're doing the most that we can out of, restoration work. It's a lot of effort, a lot of herding the cats, and he's doing a great job doing that.
No, we appreciate that. And also it's, this is one of those instances where our folks, Paul and everyone else, working with different levels of government, get something done. So, and sometimes people say, we're paying for this. Well, you do pay for directly and indirectly, but this is also coming from other parts of different parts of government, the state, the county, etc. So very grateful for that. I think we're in the middle of a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Contract award intersection improvements on Main and Spring Street. Resolved upon review by village staff and consultant, contract DPW 2022-03, intersection improvements on Main and Spring Streets is awarded to ELQ Industries Incorporated, 567 Fifth Avenue, New Rochelle, New York, 10801 for the bid amount of $978,481.34 of the lowest bid received for responsive and responsible bidder. And be further resolved that upon review by the Corporation Counsel, the village manager is authorized to sign contract DPW 2022-03.
So moved. Second.
Comments? I just want to ask Stuart. I'd like going forward, we're going to hear more about the project. If it could be Main and Spring, maybe Martha knows this, I don't know. Main and Spring, you then have Main and Spring 5-way intersection, or is it that you have to say Main and Spring because that's how it's somehow listed somewhere?
That's the title of the contract.
Can we change the title of the contract or no?
It's already been sent to the party for whom. it's
Okay.
being bid.
You understand why I'm doing this, because the public, Main and Spring is two streets coming together, 5-way intersection is a much bigger project, but okay, we'll live with that, we'll just say verbally. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll put that on me. I picked that name, so sorry.
Frozen again.
Is there any continuing business of the board?
Anybody? Not seeing anybody.
New business of the board, we have resolution authorizing the village manager to sign an agreement with Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps OVAC for AED monitoring services. Resolved that upon review of the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an agreement with Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps OVAC of Austin, New York, to perform monthly AED automated external defibrillator monitoring service in village buildings effective October 1st, 2022, at a cost of $150 per month. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any comments? I don't know what this is, so I'm assuming it's that they go around and check in all of the village buildings that the defibrillators. Is that what this is?
And we need those because at any moment.
You will have a heart attack, is what you're saying.
Somebody's
Okay.
at any moment, we could use them.
So this is like a community center, op center, it's all the buildings? What's
It's
happening
still
here?
microphones.
Yeah, here,
Yes.
take mine. What did you do to that thing?
I had my meetings this morning, I've been working out.
I'm sorry. Good evening, everybody. I'll make this quick. So in concert with the town supervisor's office, we realized that the AED equipment we have in town and village buildings was in need of a refresh. So we were able to get a really competitive price. We worked together to get all replacement units, but also some additional units in places that we needed more coverage. So that's already taken care of. But then this was a contract for OVAC to basically come to all the town and all the village sites once a month, make sure that the batteries are still working, that the unit is operating and signaling as it needs to, that we don't need replacement pads, anything along those lines. We did a pretty detailed analysis on whether it would be better to have the vendor actually provide the units and do a monthly like maintenance agreement. And this is far and away the much better plan. So thanks again to Chief Franzoso for helping us find the right units that work with the ambulances that we have here in Ossining, and for volunteering to do this for us. It's $150 a month for all of the units combined. So it's not per unit per month, it's $150 per month overall. So it's a great deal.
You guys also have first aid kits in all the buildings, right?
We sure do. Yep.
And who's managing that contract?
Those are managed through the vendor Cintas. So they also were the ones who offered to do this other thing for us, but we found that it was definitely much more.
You're gonna rebid that as well, so you can maybe combine it and save some money in a combination?
The difficulty is that you're right, that it's Cintas is the supplier of the various
Okay.
things, and otherwise I don't know if that's what's here to do that.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to add one more thing in this job. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is anybody here in the public who would like to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but of relevance to the common good of the village? If so, please click your virtual hand.
There's nobody in the room, so. do
There's-
you have
Well, I don't
anybody?
think there's anyone online that wants to speak. I don't think the person that's on there does.
Okey-dokey.
Then can I have a motion and a second to adjourn to executive session for real property.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, lose my notepad. Okay, folks, it is, wow, I am on a speed track, 8:45, and this concludes our meeting. We just need to vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See everybody next Wednesday.